Okay. Just imagine a tabletop role-playing game world where Jeremy Crawford doesn't exist. Just imagine. Just imagine what it'd be like if we could go an entire week without this man coming out and making more statements that contradict his previous statements and continue to make no sense whatsoever. So Jeremy Crawford was interviewed by comicbook.com. Now there's an industry giant that is highly respected in regards to the hobby of Dungeons and Dragons, comicbookresources.com, comicbook.com. Yeah, the same people who give us things like top 10 musical items in 5th edition. So, yes. In this article, they address the never-ending issue of older product and canon. Now, this comes right off of course, Jeremy Crawford re-releasing his standing on canon in regards to Dungeons and Dragons, and that anything that was published by anybody before 2014 doesn't count. We only count 2014 to 2024 as what is official canon for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And we will revisit those ones from 2014 that do not exist, regurgitate them into 2014 through 2024 5e versions, and then they do exist. But the previous versions of those don't exist. They never happened. Ravenloft never happened until we released the post-2014 version of Ravenloft. So in regards to the Dungeons and Dragons multiverse and what is not canon, the question came up, well, what are your plans for these older titles that do not exist? Well, Crawford has said, well, we've already done Eberron. We've already done Dragonlance. We've already done Ravenloft. We've already done Spelljammer. We've done these Magic the Gathering crossovers. So we have this multiverse concept, and we're going to revisit maybe some of these worlds, except for Dark Sun. He says, well, we love the campaign settings books because they help highlight just how wonderful rich D&D is. The highlight that D&D can be gothic horror, Ravenloft. D&D can be fantasy in space, Spelljammer. D&D can be trippy adventures in the afterlife, Planescape. I didn't know what that Planescape was about, trippy adventures in the afterlife, but I pair it is now. We'll have a little bit more of that in a second. D&D can be classic high fantasy in the form of Forgotten Realms. It can be steampunk in Eberron. Eberron, of course, not being steampunk. We feel it is vital to visit those settings to tell stories in them, and we will look forward to returning to them, so we do not view them as one-shots. So they are canon, is what you're saying. Even though 3 weeks ago, you said they weren't canon. There was no canon in D&D, other than the Player's Handbook and the DM's Guide. Nothing for 2014 counts. Nothing we've written since 2014 through 2024 is canon. In fact, there's rumors they're getting rid of certain books because they are canon and give official takes on certain monsters like Mind Flyers. And everything before 2024 doesn't count, because with the re-release, reprocessing, regurgitated brand new version of the Player's Handbook and DM's Guide in 2024, the canon once again starts there, and nothing before 2024 matters. Well, now Crawford is saying, well, we revisited these titles once, so now they do matter, they do exist, they are canon, and we plan on revisiting them again. We don't want you to think that the Strixhaven or the Planescape or the Spelljammer were just one-shots. Remind you, we've done nothing with any of those titles since then. But we don't want you to think we might not visit them in the future. Which, of course, has a lot of people going, you're going to do Dark Sun, right? That's the one we really want to see. But Wizards of the Coast probably will never do Dark Sun. So then, of course, they asked, well, what about the release schedule? And Crawford said, well, we put out so many products a year, it's hard to follow up with any of them. Our approach and how we design for the game and how we plan out the books is a play-first approach. So certain times in D&D history, it's really been read-first approach because we have had points in our history where we are producing so many books each year, there was no way anyone could play all of them. So are you counting modules as books? Are you counting third party as books? Because you're, putting out like 4 books a year right now, Crawford. So 4 or 5 books a year in your mind is a lot of books. Or are you saying in the future, we plan to release more than 4 books a year? Or are you saying, well, in the past, we released a lot of stuff if you count modules and adventures and articles. Okay, except, of course, there is no past before 2014, Crawford, right? You cannot count those because they don't exist as far as you were concerned. In some years, it would be hard to play even a small percentage of the number of things that have come out because we have a play-first approach. We want to make sure we're coming out with things at a pace where if you really wanted to, and even that would require a lot of weekends and evenings dedicated to D&D play, you could play it all. So you're saying that even though in the past we made a lot of stuff, we're going back to making only 4 or 5 things a year because we want to make sure that everybody reads through and uses this stuff before moving over. But they're not going to be one-shots. We're going to follow up on them, even though in no place on the 2024 to 2027 coming soon products does it mention anything about revisiting older title lines like Ravenloft. In fact, you would have us believe that you are starting a world agnostic setting going forward. No more Forgotten Realms. No more Ravenloft. It's just all, here are some books. Run them in whatever setting you want. Here's this year-long Vecna storyline, but it's not tied to any specific world. Do whatever you want with it. That is going forward with 2024. Now, I know we just, in 2023, came out with another Canon product in Planescape, which, of course, we won't follow up with. But starting in 2024, no. I mean, yeah, because we're going to use Planescape as the way to explain the other multiverses that will just be kind of there for Vecna. But, yeah. So Crawford has managed to once again tell us there is no history before 2014. Anything that comes out after 2024 will not be affected by anything that came out before 2024. Nothing before 2014 counts. There is no canon between 2014 and 2024. What you play at your table, you play at your table. We've come out with so many products since 2014 for a year that we cannot possibly follow up on all of them until we're sure you've read each and every one of them. So even though we plan on continuing to support Ravenloft and Eberron and Dragonlance, we understand that we haven't yet. Some of these, of course, being around for a couple of years, like Ravenloft, we understand that we haven't had a chance to follow up on any of those storylines because we get that you players are just so busy with the 4 products we make a year that you do not have time to buy another product. So we're not going to make it. But we might make it in the future, just not any time between 2024 and 2027 because none of these titles are on the coming soon. But we might revisit Ravenloft or Theros or Ravenica or any one of the other Magic the Gathering settings. Maybe. I'm not saying we're not, but I'm not saying we are. But we have been, even though we haven't. And you're like, well, where is the support for Eberron? Where is the support for Ravenloft? I've seen Jack. Where's Darksun? And they're like, oh, yeah. Well, we knew you didn't have the ability to read more than 4 things a year, which is why we're releasing so few products. Because we're making sure you read each and every one thoroughly. We don't want you to tax your brains. So if you're wondering what real honest-to-good 5e players think of this as opposed to the blue-haired freaks you think play 5e, let's go. Here's 1. Stop calling Eberron steampunk. Here's 2. make a new Spelljammer because the last one sucked. Here's 3. You say you're not making one shots, but Eberron, Spelljammer, Dragonlance, Strixhaven, Theros were all one shots. And here's my favorite. Sure, we will release campaign settings that you will play once with just enough setting information to play it once, and then release a different setting shortly thereafter that we will expect you will move on. But we don't view these as one-shots because we don't believe in our own lying eyes. So, yes, basically that is what he's setting. Again, these are all people who actually play 5e, and these are all people who are not happy with this statement. Hello, Patrice Belvin. Yes, what Wizards of the Coast sometimes appears to be just saying random things. Please like, share, and subscribe, Patrice. But yes, Jeremy Crawford is contradicting himself on a daily basis, which again goes back to my theory. Please, for the love of God, Wizards of the Coast, hire a media czar. Hire somebody whose job it is to make sure Crawford, Kyle Bink, Mackenzie, Clandor, all these idiots don't get a chance to actually say stuff like this. Give Crawford a speech, give him a script, tell him he cannot waver from the script, and then just record him. And if he messes up, record him again, pre-record everything, and then just once a month or whatever, when you need to roll him out, you have that pre-recorded backlog of him saying whatever it is he needs to say that won't anger more people. But yes, it does just feel like they're coming up with random topics to remain relevant for fear that if they stop being relevant, we might forget them and focus our attention on another game that's actually, decent in 2024. All eyes are looking at you, Daggerheart. Meanwhile, hey, have you tried Castles and Crusades? I mean, I'm just saying. You don't see Troll Lords posting this like this. You don't see pretty much any other company, even Paizo, who is considered as bad or worse than Hasbro Wizards of the Coast, doesn't post this often and is this confusing. I mean, it literally hurts my brain to read these, Crawford. So congratulations. Here's where you stand on Monday, the 14th. Somebody just asked me what I thought, what I predicted for 1D&D in 2024. And I'm like, dude, I fucking don't know. If they keep going the way they're going, it's just going to be a fustercluck of just random nonsense that makes no sense that people are going to be like, I don't want to buy this. Yeah. Hire a media czar, Wizards of the Coast. Hire somebody whose job it is to stop Crawford from saying things like this. And Mackenzie and Kyle and all the others. Just here's your script. Read this script. Move on. That's it. Oh, you blah, blah, blah. Nope, don't say that. That's it for this week's chunk of Wizards of the Coast news, but it's only Monday, so I'm sure we'll have more. If you appreciate this nonsense, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, Patricia Bolvin, please take a moment to subscribe. Till next time, I'm the OGGM. I need to take a nap because these things hurt my head.